Welcome back to Apex Sci-Fi. In the laboratories of the Kael-Shun hegemony, war is a mathematical certainty. The Kael-Shun are a race of perfectionists who believe that a battle is won in the design phase. Their weapons are masterpieces of microcircuitry, using ultra-stable plasma and subatomic targeting arrays. When their AI analyzed the United Terran Defense Forces on the colony of New Rust, the result was clear. The humans were 10% inferior in every category. Human kinetic rifles were 10% slower than Kael-Shun plasma casters. Human armor was 10% less efficient at heat dissipation. Human sensors had 10% less range. To the Kael-Shun, this was the 10% solution. They concluded that a human defense would collapse within hours because, in a game of numbers, the higher number always wins. They forgot that humans don't play games. We fight wars. The invasion of New Rust began during the planet's cinder season. The atmosphere was thick with abrasive volcanic ash, and the magnetic poles were shifting, creating massive electromagnetic interference. High Commander Zelosh sat in his levitating command sphere, watching his wraith tanks glide over the ash fields. "Look at the human machines," he remarked, pointing to a line of bulldog main battle tanks hunkered down in the gray dust. "They are loud, they use tracks that friction will destroy, and their barrels are simple tubes of steel. Engage them." Efficiency dictates a 100% victory rate. The Kael-Shun opened fire. Their plasma beams were beautiful, thin, focused needles of blue light. But as the beams traveled through the thick volcanic ash, the particles scattered the light. The perfect focus was lost. The beams that did hit the bulldog tanks were absorbed by thick, dumb, ceramic plates that didn't rely on energy fields. "Return fire." Commander Sarah Wrench Jenkins yelled over the radio. The bulldogs roared. They didn't fire light. They fired high-explosive anti-tank heat shells. The shells traveled through the ash and the electromagnetic interference without a single glitch. A physical object moving at Mach 5 doesn't care about a magnetic storm. The shells slammed into the Kael-Shun wraith tanks. The alien energy shields, designed to deflect high-frequency energy, were buckled by the raw, low-frequency impact of 10 kilograms of exploding metal. "Report." Zelosh screamed as his front line vanished in pillars of fire. "Our targeting arrays are failing, Commander," a technician wailed. "The ash is entering the microcooling vents. The subatomic stabilizers are short-circuiting. The human weapons, they have no electronics to fail. They are just throwing metal at us." The 10% solution was falling apart. The Kael-Shun tech was too precise for a death world. Their rifles, which could hit a target at 5 miles in a vacuum, were jamming because the volcanic grit was too fine for their internal seals. Sarah Jenkins led a countercharge. She wasn't even in a tank. She was in a modified industrial loader with a piece of scrap metal welded to the front as a shield. "They're stalling," Sarah yelled, her voice full of grit and grease. "Their fancy guns are overheating. Getting close. Hit him with the heavy stuff." The fight became a nightmare for the Kael-Shun. The humans didn't stay at range where the alien 10% advantage mattered. They closed the distance until the battle was a chaotic, muddy brawl. Human soldiers used rifles that could be dragged through a swamp and still fire. They used dumb grenades that didn't need a satellite link to explode. Sarah slammed her loader into a Kael-Shun Shadewalker. The alien machine, a marvel of anti-gravity and balance, was knocked over by the raw, uncalculated mass of the human machine. Sarah jumped out, holding a heavy pipe wrench, her namesake. A Kael-Shun pilot scrambled out of the wreck, his glowing pulse pistol humming. He pulled the trigger, but the gun only let out a pathetic click hiss. The ash had fused the firing crystal. Sarah didn't hesitate. She swung the wrench. By the end of the day, the Kael-Shun Invincible Armada was a collection of high-tech scrap. The 10% solution had resulted in a 90% casualty rate for the invaders. Zelosh was captured in the ruins of his command sphere. He looked at Sarah, who was currently using a dirty rag to wipe oil off her face. "Your technology is garbage," Zelosh spat, his voice trembling. "It is primitive. It is inefficient. By every law of the universe, we should have won." Sarah leaned against the side of her battered loader. "You're right, pal. Our gear is 10% slower, 10% dumber, and 10% uglier. But here's the thing you missed in your math. Our gear is 100% more likely to work when the world is ending." She tapped the side of her loader. "You built your guns for a laboratory. We built ours for the mud. You can keep your 10% precision. I'll keep the fact that my hammer still hits just as hard when it's covered in dirt." The Galactic Council later reviewed the Rust campaign. They realized that human technology wasn't primitive, It was over-engineered for failure. We assumed our tools would break, so we made them easy to fix. We assumed the environment would be hostile, so we made them rugged. Humanity had proven the ultimate engineering HFY truth. Precision is a luxury of the peaceful. But on the frontier, robustness is the only metric that matters. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. If it can't survive a drop in the mud, it's not a human weapon. If you enjoyed this victory of grit over glamour, hit that like button. Comment below, what is the most indestructible piece of tech you've ever owned? Subscribe for the next front, the ghost of the red sands. The ash is settling. The bulldogs are still running.